Of the Jesus Taxi. I'm filming here in Middle Tennessee. Tonight I'm in Mount Juliet, just east of Nashville. Going to be here for the next week or so. I used to live here, and tonight I've got a really special friend. First time we've ever had a comedian on the Jesus Taxi show, so I'm really excited about it. So stick around for the next 30 minutes. I think you're going to find this is a fun and inspiring time. Hey everybody, Wayne Hanson here with the Jesus Taxi. So glad that you're watching and joining us here today online. I am in the Jesus Taxi here east of Nashville in a place called Mount Juliet, Tennessee. And my guest has been on the Dry Bar Comedy Hour. He's been in the Mayberry movie. He's a stand-up comic. He does fundraising, team building, all kinds of great stuff. And a brand new friend of mine. I'm looking forward to having this conversation tonight. This is Rik Roberts, everybody.
Hey,
there he is.
Now we're talking.
Welcome to the Jesus Taxi.
Thanks for having me, Wayne.
You bet.
It's gonna be sweet.
So I think I've only been to Mount Juliet once or twice in my entire life. You know, making gas stops, going over to Knoxville or different places. I used to work for Word Record and Music Group in Nashville. And so when we would film music videos, we would sometimes be out in Middle Tennessee, you know, trying to find scenic spots and that kind of thing. I would scout locations for Christian music videos. So love it. So show me around Mount Juliet, I guess.
Yeah, we'll have to get out of this parking lot.
Right? We met at Lowe's.
Yeah, we met at Lowe's. So we set the bar low to start the show.
Exactly.
Take a left out of here. You'll take a left at the next and a left at the next.
All right. So
right
and left.
Right, then left.
Awesome.
And then left. And then we'll get to a fairly easy road to get down.
Sounds good. So did you grow up in Mount Juliet?
I grew up in Lexington, Kentucky area, a little town called Versailles, which I didn't know was pronounced Versailles, so I went to college in West Virginia.
Okay.
It took a bunch of West Virginians to teach me how to speak English.
Right.
And I did tobacco farming with my dad growing up, worked on horse farms, thoroughbred horse farms.
Oh, wow.
And had the total Kentucky experience.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. You know, I don't want to be the old guy saying it was the way it was and it should be that way, but man, it was good to be outside all the time.
Right? This is pre-internet, before pre-iPhone, pre-all
right
that
about
stuff.
the time Pong came out. Remember Pong?
Yeah, I
Pong
do.
and the Commodore 64?
Yes, yep.
That's right.
That was big stuff. Should I go left here?
Yeah, go left here.
Okay. Sounds good. So it's a rainy night in Mount Juliet. We got the Mount Juliet Church of God across the street. Yeah.
We've got a pretty good church population here. Lots of churches still popping up. Not too many going away. You know, the pandemic was hard on a lot of pastors, so quite a few.
For sure.
Of the older churches especially that didn't foster a youth program start to kind of fade out. But
yeah, and if they weren't tech savvy, they weren't doing online ministry and that kind of thing, that was probably pretty hard.
Yeah, so you know, a lot of places you see an old mall and they turn half of the mall into a church.
Right.
Which is what our church did. And some other places are probably turning churches into mini malls.
Yep.
Reversing the thing.
Yeah, my church, I was a church planter myself in Castle Rock, Colorado. So I was a youth pastor for a lot of years, youth ministry, youth evangelist, traveled, toured, worship albums, that whole kind of thing. And then planted a church, and we were setting up and tearing down a local high school.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the pandemic hit, and all the school rental contracts were canceled. And so we were sort of homeless, just trying to borrow facilities. 2 years ago, a man was watching my social media's Facebook page. I was doing like an online prayer meeting. And he goes, "Oh, you're praying for a church? Well, I have an empty church building. You want to use it?" I was like, "Yeah, I'll take it." So we've been in this church, just kind of a country church in Sedalia, Colorado, just south of Denver. And it's kind of a motorcycle church now. So
cool.
We got like 25 guys and ladies that are all Harley riding people. They wear the Christian Motorcycle Association vest, and they go tell people about Jesus.
Oh, excuse me.
Oh man, that was a good one. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So you and I are. I'm like a Michigan redneck. You know, I'm a Motorhead kind of guy.
Right.
But similar. You know, definitely enjoy racing and dirt biking and ATVs and all that stuff.
Well, I've gotten into riding the road bike, cycling.
Oh wow!
So pandemic hit and I had like 115 events wiped off the calendar, and I had my whole year open up.
Wow!
And I started running for a while, then I hurt my foot and started riding a bike. I'm like, this is the way to go.
Right.
And so now I'm up to like 150 miles plus a week.
Oh wow!
And I've got a initiative that I've put together called Bike for Bucks, and what I'm trying to do is partner with different fundraising organizations. I do my comedy show, they raise their money, and then we take whatever amount they raised and put it in the bucket of what I've helped raise. And right now I've traveled 12,700 miles, which is more than halfway around the world.
Wow.
And we've raised about $475,000.
Wow, praise God. That's amazing.
So,
that's amazing.
Yeah, it took a negative situation and flipped it over and got exercise and then started making it purpose-driven.
That's really cool. That's really cool. When we were kids, I think I told you before, my dad was an Assembly of God pastor. So the Assemblies of God has a program called Speed the Light. And so that's when the teenagers, do fundraising for missionaries to try to get vehicles or supplies to missionaries that are underfunded. And and there's a town in Michigan called Hell. It's Hell, Michigan.
Oh yeah.
So the state thing every year was to ride our bikes to Hell and back for Speed the Light.
I love it.
So if there's a Hell, Tennessee, you could ride to Hell and back.
Yeah, there's probably pockets that you could call that. You can take a ride that's light up here and we'll go down a nice country road.
Sounds good. Yeah, you probably know where all the good country roads are riding bikes.
Well, that's the thing. You got to find the less trafficked roads.
Right.
They don't have to necessarily be wide roads, but they got to not have a lot of cars passing each other at the same time. So
right.
This one is a little busy at the beginning, then it lightens up a little bit.
So what brought you to Mount Juliet? What attracted to you about this town?
So I grew up in Kentucky, lived in West Virginia for college, Columbus, Ohio for 9 years, all of the 90s.
Yeah.
Moved here in late 99, and the reason was I was a clean comic. I needed to find a place where I could have conferences come to me more.
So, cool.
So in Columbus, a few people come to have a conference there, but not everybody. It's not like a destination like Nashville really is now.
Right.
And it's really become even more so. So that was the intention, and they had a couple TV shows here at the time, and they would use comics to warm up the audience.
Right.
So
right.
I thought that'd be a good opportunity.
That's a steady gig, right? That you can, on a regular basis, you could be the warm-up guy.
But when I moved here, the TV station, TNN, went off the air, so they didn't have the shows anymore.
Oh.
And the internet was kind of becoming a big thing around 99.
Yep.
And so I'm still on the road. I maybe do 10% of my events here in Nashville, the rest are out of state.
Right.
So I moved here to do more comedy so I could stay home, and I'm still gone. I'm gone more than it was.
Right. So tell me about your family. You've got. Well, in fact, I think I got a perfect question for you.
All right.
How many kids do you have, and how old are they?
All right. So I'm 54. I've got a 17-year-old son.
Yep.
And about to turn 11-year-old little girl.
Oh, wow, cool.
And recently my wife has started talking about adoption.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I told her, listen, slow down a little bit. I don't think anybody is going to take these kids off our hands at this point. Start with the little one, put her up, see if anybody, put her on Craigslist, see what happens.
Right.
But 17-year-old's a good kid. Unlike you, he didn't want to learn how to drive,
Yeah, what is this generation? They don't want to drive.
No, and I did some digging into it. And here's what's happening. They were all afraid they were going to have a head-on collision with a job or an occupation. Get sideswiped by a paycheck at a four-way.
I know, that's right.
That'd be horrible, wouldn't it? So I was still driving them to birthday parties when they're like 16 and almost 17 years old, him and his friends. I had 5 of his friends and him in my car, and they wanted to go downtown Nashville, so I'm driving them. I don't know if you've had many teenagers in the car before, but maybe.
Oh, yeah.
I had never heard so many voices cracking in my entire life. It's like I was hauling donkeys down interstate. It's like, is that a honky tonk? Is that where they play hockey? Like I was driving a puberty Uber. Crack a window back there, Eeyore. Goodness. They're good. They're good kids.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you have got a good church here you go to in Mount Juliet?
Yeah. Church we go to is real nice. Friendship Community Church.
Nice.
Non-denominational, but kind of out of the Southern Baptist tradition.
Yeah, that's awesome. I tell people I'm a Baptist-costal.
Yeah.
My wife was Baptist. I was Pentecostal. We split the difference, and so we're charismaptist.
There you
We're
go.
Baptist-costal. We're somewhere in the middle there. So we love it.
Yeah.
It's great.
Well, you get the enthusiasm, and that's the thing that.
Oh, it's huge.
I was watching Charles Stanley the other day.
Yes.
One of my favorites. In fact, our family loves watching him too.
Yep.
And he had just a great line that he said is, a bored Christian is a bad testimony.
Right.
And I'm like, man, you're so right. If you're not fired up and on fire, then something's wrong, and nobody's going to catch fire if you're
That's right.
bored to death with everything. So
that's right.
Good line from Dr. Charles. The late
Well,
great.
I think the Bible is the most exciting book ever written, and if you make it boring, that has to be some kind of sin.
Yeah,
I think.
yeah. There's something for everybody in there on every page.
That's right. Well, I can't believe it, but we're already up against the first ad break. I want to just take a minute right now, since we're talking about church. I'm going to tell you about my church back home in Colorado, Summit Church of Douglas County. Check it out. What do you look for in a good church? A loving spiritual family? Life-giving messages that help you draw closer to God? A place to raise your kids with moral values? A place to connect? A place to protect? And a place to grow? You can find all this and more at Summit Church of Douglas County in Sedalia, Colorado. Summit Church isn't a perfect church, but it's a loving spiritual family nestled in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains in Sedalia. Come join us for an in-person worship at 10:30 a.m. Mountain Time at 4240 North Perry Park Road in Sedalia, Colorado, 80135. Or join us live on our Facebook page at facebook.com/Summit Church Sedalia. For more information about our ministry, visit mysummitchurch.com. Do you want to start a relationship with God? Visit 29minutes.org and learn more about how to have a friendship with Jesus Christ. Well, I tell you what, you need a good church, and my guest here, Rik Roberts, is a man of faith, and he goes to a good church here in Middle Tennessee. So tell me a little bit maybe about your faith experience, Rik.
Yeah, so I grew up Southern Baptist, went to South Elkhorn Baptist Church there in the Lexington, Kentucky area growing up, and was baptized probably 3rd or 4th grade. Then through high school, was part of the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, those kinds of things. Went to Disciples of Christ College, Bethany College, up in Bethany, West Virginia, about 45 minutes south of Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And then started comedy in 1991.
Yeah, so how did you get into comedy? How did that start?
Yeah, I went to a place to play guitar one night.
Uh-huh.
Signed up. They said, hey, you got 5 to 7 minutes. You're going to be the first one that goes up. Be ready to go. So I get all ready.
So it's like an open mic situation.
An open mic, but I didn't know it was for comedians. I looked around. There's 2 other 3 guys with guitars. I figured we're all here to play music. It's at a bar/restaurant, discotheque kind of place. There's no sign that says comedy. The MC goes up and just says, hey, we're going to get started. First guy up, Rik Roberts. I go up. I play 3 songs to total silence. Just Bridge Over Troubled Water, nothing. Born to Be Wild, maybe something faster, nothing. And then I can't read
these aren't funny at all.
Yeah, I didn't even, they're looking at me like, what? And then I say, well, what do you guys want to hear? Because they didn't clap at the end of either of those. And they used a lot of different words, but they're basically saying, how about something funny? So I'd written a couple funny songs in college. By chance, I remembered one of them. Played that, they kind of chuckled, and then when I got done, the MC goes, did you have any idea tonight was a comedy competition? I'm like, what? A comedy competition?
Oh, you were competing.
Yes, he goes, there's 25 comics here tonight. You were the first one, and you may not make it back next week. We'll see what happens. And so I just turned ghostly pale. I grabbed my guitar case, didn't even put it in the case. I just went out to my truck, started to get ready to drive away, and 2 guys came over and said, man, are you going to have your hoagie? I'm like, what? He goes, you get a free hoagie for going on stage. I'm like, I'm going back into that place and eating my hoagie. And then I watched 24 other comics, and it was a competition that I had kind of entered in the middle of.
Right.
And the way it worked was the more laughs you got, at the end of the night they gave you points.
Yeah.
And so the people with the most points over the time went later in the show where you had a bigger audience and a better warmed-up crowd. And the newer people or the weaker people went up first and kind of took the bullet for everybody.
Right.
So I had taken the bullet and as I was watching these guys, though, it dawned on me, this is how comics practice. Because growing up, I liked George Carlin, I liked Bill Cosby, I liked Steve Martin, I liked Dennis Miller, but I just thought you were born into those kind of families or something. I had no idea you could choose to do it.
Right. You need practice. You need a place to find out when and if you are funny.
Exactly. So I'm like, I'm going to come back next week and write some jokes. And I did, and it went okay. Not great, but it went okay. But in the course of about a year, I was hitting 7 or 8 open mics a week, and I quit my job after a year.
Right. So, are you still doing sets now? Do you go out and hit, I think I saw Zany's earlier today in Nashville.
I don't hit the clubs as much. We can turn around here and hit back.
Sure.
I will. A couple of my church buddies have at different churches will have open mics. In fact, we just did one last week where the whole idea was just get out as many new jokes as you can and see how the audience responds.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, we were all clean comics and Christian comics, so it was a good place to kind of practice that.
I was a youth pastor at a megachurch called the Fellowship Church, which was similar to the Fellowship Church in Dallas, but this was Fellowship Church in Grand Junction. In fact, my predecessor went and moved to Dallas, was Ed Young's youth pastor. But we would do this Christianized version of comic relief. Remember when they would do
Whoopi Goldberg,
they do
Crystal.
they do comedy for the homeless, basically. Mm-hmm. But we did comedy for missions. We kind of had a similar logo and everything. But we had this is totally copyright infringement. But we had all the teenagers memorize Seinfeld's routine, and the big finish was Gallagher. But it wasn't Gallagher. It was Galloper. And so then Galloper would get up with a giant sledgehammer and smash a watermelon in the crowd, and it was kind of like the best of the best when it came to comedy, and the teenagers got that immediate feeling of success because the audience already knew the material, or they were slightly familiar with it, so they really enjoyed it, and it kind of just got their feet wet. And a couple of those kids actually ended up doing comedy later.
Oh, great.
Which is pretty cool.
You never know. Comics always say, when you first start, you don't know what you're doing exactly, and sometimes you're telling jokes that you may have heard before or whatever, until you know better. And it's just, the general consensus is it's like your comedy training wheel. It's like you have to have some kind of rhythm of speech.
Right.
You naturally imitate kind of your favorites, whether you know it or not.
Yeah, like a band, they do cover songs, right? Yeah. And they learn how to play their best Van Halen and their best, Bruno Mars or whatever, and then they start writing some of their own stuff.
Yeah, they kind of, you find the rhythm of things and then put your own sauce on it.
That's right. Well, I'm going to take this opportunity to talk about Riverside FM. That's a podcasting platform I've been using, and you can use it too. Check it out, Riverside FM. Riverside.fm makes it easy to record remote podcasts and video interviews that look and sound like they were recorded in $1 million studio. Riverside was founded in 2020 by two brothers, Gideon and Nadav. Originally from Amsterdam, now headquartered in Tel Aviv, Israel. Those of us that are digital creators and podcasters know that content is king. Content is our thoughts, opinions, and ideas. You can change the world with content. The mission of Riverside.fm is to empower creators and businesses to tell their stories and to amplify their voices. Start creating your own podcasts and digital content with Riverside.fm using my link in the description below. We're excited to see the new media landscape and the emerging content and voices that share everything from news and cultural commentary to spirituality and mindfulness. Again, check out Riverside.fm using my link in the description below. All right, well, we're back with Rik Roberts here in the Jesus Taxi. You were in the Mayberry movie, and I was a big Andy Griffith fan as a kid. Tell me how that all got going.
Yeah, so Mayberry Man is a movie that takes place at a Mayberry festival.
Okay.
And the idea behind it came to the producer and his brother. Their father had been in a couple episodes of the Andy Griffith Show.
Oh, cool.
And,
very cool.
If people really know the show, the character's name was Dud Walsh, but that was their dad.
Okay.
And they'd gone to a Mayberry Festival just kind of see what it was like, and everybody found out that they were related to one of the people that were on the show, and they just kind of went crazy over him, and they watched this Mayberry Festival where people were roaming around as like Barney Fives, Floyd the Barber,
right,
Ernest T. Bass, and all kinds of stuff.
Well, you've gotten so skinny, you actually have that Don Knotts look, Don Knotts in his prime kind of look, you know?
So I got lucky. Anyway, they were getting ready to cast the movie, and I think a couple other people were ahead of me for the role, and it was shot during COVID, so they didn't want to take a chance.
So it's pretty recent.
Yeah, we shot it in 2020 in the fall.
Yeah. And
so anyway, I get a call one day, like, hey man, we're watching some clips of you doing Barney Fife on YouTube. I said, we're shooting a movie. You don't have to be Barney Fife, just a Barney Fife impersonator like you already are.
Right.
We've got a part for you if you want it. And I'm like, that sounds pretty cool. They're like, what's your schedule like? I'm like, I just had 115 events canceled. I'm wide open. Let's do it. They're like, we need 3 weeks. I'm like, you can take 3 years if you want the way it looks.
Right? Yeah, that was so scary.
Yeah,
so scary.
So they called and we shot it, and then it came out a year later, almost to the day that we finished wrapping. It's on Amazon Prime. It's on Hulu. It's on PureFlix.
Yeah.
So, and if you go to mayberryman.com, you can find other places to watch it if you don't have those services. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, if you want a little Barney Fife.
Yeah, give me some Fife.
Well, I tell you what, Wayne, you're real. Slow down, Wayne. We're gonna run off the road here in a second. Treat this car right, she'll treat you right. Treating it like it's a rental.
How many bullets in your gun there, Barney?
I got one bullet and I keep it in my pocket. I keep it high and to the left like Nolan Ryan. Nobody messes with old Barn.
Hey, so have you ever been in a tornado? That's something I want to know.
Well, yeah, oddly enough, we had a big tornado here in Mount Juliet a couple of years ago. Actually, 2020 as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was nasty. And I was sitting at a Cracker Barrel restaurant when it happened.
Okay.
I hear the siren go off. I start looking around. Can you pick a more unsafe place to be in a tornado than a Cracker Barrel? You ever look at the walls, the ceilings?
Particle board.
They got hose, pitchforks, antlers, anvils. I'm dodging stuff. Golf tees are flying at you 90 miles an hour. I'm like flipping around. It's like a hillbilly matrix in there. It's like slipped on cherry cobbler for half an hour trying to get out. That was the most recent tornado. When I was a kid, growing up on the farm, we had a tornado, and we lived in a little ranch house. And they would always say back in those days, go to the innermost room of your house with no windows.
Right.
Which is always the bathroom, the hall bathroom.
Right.
So I got 2 brothers. My parents were all crammed in there. Then they say it's going to be real nasty. Get down in the tub and put a mattress on top of you. So we're all in there. We're about 6 to 12 years old, my parents. Then my dad gets the king-size mattress, and he's trying to get it through the door. And you ever try to move a mattress by yourself? He gets it on top of us, and right when he gets it down on us, it dawned on us that we had all had baked beans for dinner. And Wayne, I don't know if the storm was raging inside more than outside or not, but it does sound like a freight train. It really
does. Very good. Very good. That's a nice little set there, man. That's great. That is really good.
Tornadoes.
Yeah, man. You know, we used to have tornadoes as a kid, in the Midwest quite a bit. Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota. Yeah.
Well, if you get out to Kansas, you realize that tornado from the Wizard of Oz took everything with it.
Yeah.
Trees, curves, hills.
Last, 6 weeks ago or so, up in the Rockies where I live, someone up in Montana sent me a clip of a tornado that hit at altitude. So it was actually above timberline where the snow was. It was the most incredible view.
I saw a video of that.
It was something.
Like a snow-nado.
Yeah, it was crazy. They almost never hit at high altitude like that, but they did that day.
That's nuts.
It was really, really crazy.
Yeah, I like Colorado. I was just out there 2 weeks ago with my son. We went had an event out there. And I took my son for a couple of days. He loves doing Frisbee golf.
So, did anybody, when you came out to Colorado, did anybody ever get you to eat some Rocky Mountain oysters?
No, but I know what they are.
Okay.
You're not tricking me.
Well, I'll take you to Coors Field to the third deck, Yeah, it's an acquired taste. It's an acquired taste.
I do remember somewhere on the road early in the 90s, somebody tried to get me to eat those. And I understand they're not bad, but I was just... Once I found out, it's good.
Yeah, you only find out they're good when someone tricks you into eating them.
Right.
And then you're like, actually, this is pretty good.
Yeah, like circus peanuts.
Exactly. So you probably eat a lot of Southern food living here in Tennessee, and you're a Kentucky guy. So I know, do you ever you ever just get too much of Southern food?
Well, it can be tough to like moderate yourself. You know, I found out I have high cholesterol. Do you have that?
Not yet.
Well, man, I think it's a scam to start off with. I didn't have it till my doctor said I did, for one. Second, my grandma lived to be 99 years old, and she used the same bacon grease out of a Folgers can she kept under the sink for at least 50 years. You go to her house, she'd make you some eggs, there'd be a piece of bacon from 1975 just hanging on. Take me with you.
My grandma did too, but it was Crisco back then.
Yeah, you remember they get a metal ice cream scoop and scoop it out, throw it in the middle of the iron skillet?
Yes.
But yeah, my cholesterol number is really high. It was 425, which is it's the highest in this county. So I got to go to regionals, placed third in the gravy bracket. Got beat out by a gravy sucker from Memphis. He was real good. But then the doctor wanted to put me on medicine.
Yeah.
Well, you've seen those commercials. The side effects are worse than what you start off with.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I like when they say stuff like, "Don't try Sky Rizzy if you're allergic to Sky Rizzy." Well, how do you know if you're allergic until you try it a couple times?
That's true.
He put me on Lipitor for the high cholesterol. He gave me a 2-week supply to see if it was, going to cause a reaction or a side effect. And
right.
No side effects until the 15th day.
Yeah.
When I had to pay for it.
Okay.
Lipitor, the original Lipitor was $8 a pill.
Right.
Wayne, that's a Big Mac and a side of fries, $8.
Right.
And they're little. You can take a left up here. One more, I got to take my pill and I dropped it and I couldn't find it and I was out $8. So you know what I do now?
What do you do? What do you do?
Wrap it up in a piece of bacon, swallow it whole. I melt cheese on there so it sticks real good.
Right.
You get a toothpick in there, it's a pill and a blanket.
Oh man.
I'm gonna sell that back to Pfizer. There's our newest mural over there of Charlie Daniels. He's a Wilson County past resident.
I was just watching a Sammy Hagar interview with him before he passed, and they sang the song "Leave That Long-Haired
Country Boy
Alone."
Oh, yeah.
That was a great. And to hear Sammy Hagar sing it was pretty awesome.
That's good.
Yeah.
I just was listening to the 80s rock Pandora station on a bike ride recently, and it flipped back through the Van Halens when it was Eddie Van Halen with David Lee Roth, and then Van Halen with Sammy Hagar.
Right.
And they both worked.
Yeah.
The first one you always kind of like more than the second one.
Right.
Just because you had more experience listening to it. But Sammy did a decent job in there.
Yeah.
Definitely brought the guitar along.
He was a decent guitar player and then just a screamer. He was just a party on wheels, that guy. He just never stopped partying.
Never stopped.
I think he still hits it pretty hard even these days.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that I've noticed too is like Eddie was able to jump on the keyboards a whole lot more.
Right.
With Sammy playing some guitars. So
that's right.
That 1984 album was just so thick with keyboards, but it was great.
Yep. On that Charlie Daniels interview with Sammy, they throw down on guitar together, and it's pretty good stuff for sure. Man, well, I've really just enjoyed getting a few setups and punchlines with you tonight, and makes me want to get more comedians in the Jesus Taxi because it goes so fast.
I tell you what, I am part of a group called the Christian Comedy Association.
Okay.
I know about 200 really good Christians that do comedy.
Well, yeah, hook a brother up, man. I'll get him in there.
You tell me when you need some people, and I'll line you up because they've got a lot to offer on and off stage, and they're all good people. So
that's cool.
That'd be great.
That's really cool. Yeah, so I've really enjoyed my longer visit to Mount Juliet. And I never want to end a Jesus Taxi episode without talking about Jesus, and maybe your own faith experience, or where are you at with the Lord now, or what do you what does a relationship with Jesus do for you, Rick?
Well, let me tell you something, Wayne. Also in 2020, early 2021, right around there, because I was biking so much, I went to the doctor to get my heart checked out.
Yeah.
A lot of my family's had heart attacks from all the cholesterol issues and whatever, I guess. But I just want to make sure my heart could handle the activity.
Right.
Heart was fine. Turned out I had, here's Lowe's right here.
Okay.
Turned out I had cancer, prostate cancer. Really aggressive.
Right.
I don't know what age you are, but after 45, you should ask your doctor for a PSA blood test.
Okay.
And it will identify markers. They want your marker to be under the number 5. and mine was at 63.
Wow.
Really aggressive, and it was kind of terrifying because I thought I was in the best shape of my life. For the first time I've been exercising, I had all my energy back, and so then I've got to figure out, do I have chemo? Do I have proton therapy? Do I have radical prostatectomy where you take it out? That's what I opted for in the long run. It's at my age and things, if something recurs, then you've got radiation of the second wave.
Yeah.
If you radiate first, it's a little harder to remove anything.
So did you end up doing the chemo too, or?
No, I got it's hard to say I got fortunate with cancer, but as far as the treatment with the removal of it, they pretty much think they got everything. About a year and 4 months after the surgery, I got another checkup next Tuesday or Wednesday to see how things are going, but the past three-month checkups have all been good. But during that time, I got to spend a lot of extra time with the Lord and Jesus, the Trinity, and I had never felt the presence more so than then. And it's just one of the gifts that God gives you is that you can just reach out, he's right there the whole time.
That's right.
When you're doing great things, when you're doing bad things, when you're neglecting him, he's still sitting in the car right next to you, basically. He's in the back seat right here, right along with us.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
That's right. Yeah, I love the fact that Jesus is always there when we need him, Before we were ever here, long after we'll be gone. But it was, the peace that I had was almost unnerving to people around me. They're like, how come you're not freaking out right now? And to be honest, once you understand God and Jesus, if you give everything to them, lean not on your own understanding, that the whole thing, there's no more pressure. And I 100% felt like whatever happens, happens. I believe I know where I'm going. If this goes sideways, if the surgery goes crazy, there was a Da Vinci robot with 4 arms and AI guiding the doctors instead of the doctors guiding. It was pretty crazy, but I was fine with whatever happened, and still am. If something recurs or if it comes back, it's just another opportunity to glorify God and His ability to be there with us. So that's awesome.
It's not an easy thing, and I don't want to make light of my situation. Everybody that's gone through it has had different results and sometimes not good. So
yeah,
but I don't know how you go through without God in your life.
Yeah,
absolutely no idea.
I so agree. And I had a older brother that was a music pastor that ended up dying of cancer, and so I know the whole suffering. And if you've watched the episode, we've laughed quite a bit, and some of the best comedy comes out of pain. And if you've watched this far and you're like, maybe you feel far from God, or you're wondering if God really loves you, can I tell you, He's right there with you in the middle of your pain. He cares about you, and He just wants you to reach out to Him. And there's a racing logo I love called STP, and there's lots of T-shirts and stickers. It stands for Scientifically Treated Petroleum, but for me, it stands for something else. It stands for sorry, thank you, please. That's the prayer that I invite people to pray to let Jesus come in. Would you take a minute right now, and if you haven't invited Christ to come in, or maybe you prayed a prayer a long time ago, but you haven't been living with Jesus as the Lord of your life, would you just pray this simple prayer of sorry, thank you, please with me? Just right over what you're doing, just stop for a minute and just make a holy space between you and God. Just pray this. Say, Dear Jesus, I'm sorry for my sin. Thank you for dying on the cross for me. I believe God raised you from the dead according to the scriptures. Please come into my heart. Forgive me of my sin. Be my Lord and be my Savior. In Jesus' name. Amen. Well, a half hour goes like that in the Jesus Taxi.
It sure does.
And Rick, you made it so fun.
Well, I'm glad we got to do it. Thanks for reaching out.
For sure.
And we should have run to the grocery or something. We should have utilized the gas but we did good. We got back where we started.
We use the gas for the gospel, and that's a good reason right there.
I love it.
Well, stick around here, and you can see ways to partner with the Jesus Taxi Show. God bless you guys. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching the Jesus Taxi Show today. The Jesus Taxi is a proud outreach of Summit Church of Castle Rock, Colorado. Go to mysummitchurch.com and press the donate button to support the ministry financially. If you want to do that, you can also do it by text. It doesn't cost anything, no fee for it. If you text the amount of your gift to this number, 303-625-9434, and then press send, follow the prompts using your smartphone, and 100% of what you give by text will go to the ministry. You can also mail your gift the old-fashioned way. Just write a check and mail it to this address, Summit Church, 200 South Wilcox Street, Box 243, Castle Rock, Colorado, 80104. And we'll see you next time on the show. Remember, God loves you. He loved you so much that he sent Jesus, and he's there with you in your ups and downs. So share this link with a friend, and we'll see you next time on the Jesus Taxi Show.
You're the reason why the sun keeps going up and down every day. You're the reason why